Bad news, guys. The Constipated Beasts are back and we are still in a Geocheck abyss. I really miss Magu Kenki. When is he coming back? Anyways, welcome back. So let me try to get over a quick Spiral Abyss guide specifically for floor 11 and floor 12. So floor 11, there's not really much to say. For chamber 1, you're gonna have like 2 Yamkasaurus and 2 Koholosaurus, and the other half is Pyro version of the Avatar of Lava. Nothing special, they're always infused in Pyro. If you can vape them, you can, but otherwise just do whatever to kill it. The Yamkasaurus and the Koholosaurus, there's only like 2 waves of 2 of them, so there's nothing special. Chamber 2 also, there's not really anything special, it's just a bunch of enemies. If you do whatever you need to do to kill them, group them together, do whatever, as long as you kill them in time, should be fine. This is 11-2, so the 3-star requirement is less strict at like 200 seconds, which is about 5 minutes remaining. Chamber 3 is something that I can probably give an advice about. So both halves are very hydro heavy enemies. Mirror Maiden and the Bathysphemal V-Shap, the adult one, both have relatively high hydro resistance. So unless you have characters like Shilona and Kazuha together to reduce their resistance, I highly recommend you to not run any hydro related units unless you have a very highly invested characters. Second half is do not run hydro in a nutshell. Both of the Eidolon legends are going to be here again. Of course, the simple tip is just to go for the melee guy, which is the guy with the floppy hand-ear looking thing. Otherwise, just don't run hydro here. Run Pyro, Bennett Shengling, or whichever vape character that you want to use. And as long as you clear the chamber in time, there shouldn't really be much of a problem. Now, to the biggest annoyance of the current version is definitely floor 12. So I've spent quite a few times testing a few things just to figure out what kind of advices I want to give you guys, and I can say for sure 12th one is going to be the hardest one, being purely a heavy DPS check. So fret not if you don't have a high enough investment. Try to focus on getting the easy 3 stars on chamber 2 and chamber 3, and then you can worry about retrying chamber 1 later since it is the very first chambers. Okay, so the Consecrated Beasts are back again. They do have a few mechanics, so here's a few things you can do in order to really save some time. So the Vulture will spawn slightly in front of the chamber at the center. So what you want to do is essentially this thing called edge baiting. You run all the way to the stairs on the other side, prepare whatever abilities that you can, wait for the Vulture to jump towards you, be sure to dodge that attack, and then just keep doing damage, set up your rotation, and yeah, that's really all it is. Just make sure that the Vulture, when he's looking at you, he's facing you towards the wall, so whatever moves that he will make, he will always stay next to you, next to your wall, so that you don't have to deal with him going too far away. There's only 2 things of note about these 2 enemies, is that both enemies have relatively high resistance, especially to their own elements, so try to not bring matching elements against them unless you have like abilities to shred their resistance and such. And when both of them are at relatively low HP, the Consecrated Beasts will do their special attack and drop this Prismatic Crystal. What you want to do is hit them with elemental attacks, or preferably the one that matches their element, and once you grab them, you will obtain the prismatic state, of which if you hit the beast in this state, they will take a lot of damage, they'll be staggered for the next 8 to 10 seconds, and they will have reduced resistance. If you're able to really take advantage of this, you're gonna have a bit of an easier time to get that clear. The same can be said for the Scorpion. After you take care of the Vulture, run on the other side, do edge baiting, make sure the Scorpion is facing you towards the wall, rinse and repeat, and we'll be moving on to the second half. So for the second half is also a very heavy DPS check. You're going to start off with 2 of the hatchlings. They'll always do the ball energy sucking move, so be sure to just dodge it. What you want to do is edge bait, run all the way to the back of the chamber, wait for them to swim towards you. Once that is done, go on the other side of them and make sure you are staring at them and you are looking at them facing the wall. Rinse and repeat, do your rotations, and then the 2 Geo Primus will spawn. These guys do have Geo Shield, but if you have abilities that can stagger them, they wouldn't be able to enter their enhanced state. Of course, if they are able to, just use Geo or Overloaded, which we'll talk about which characters you can use for that team later. Preferably, once you kill the hatchlings, go to either their left or the right. Make sure you use whatever ability so that they can slowly group themselves together so that you can save a lot of time. Once you clear this wave, you'll have the final 2 waves of the Praetorian Golems. You don't necessarily need to break their shield in order to do damage to them because their damage reduction isn't that crazy, but if you really want to get that 3-star clear, try to bring the right kind of characters in order to break the shield as fast as possible. Same strategy as a Primus, try to face one, the other one will come to you eventually, kill them both, and we move on to chamber 2. So the first half, you have 2 Axe Mythochals. They're very weak, just kill them. And then immediately right after, there'll be 2 Ruin Graders that will spawn at the back. So what you want to do here is go towards the middle of them, preferably facing one of the Ruin Graders. Eventually, both will come to you within hugging or melee range. Rinse and repeat, make sure you do enough damage, and then we move on to the second half. So the second half, the Plunge Legend makes another return. Now, there's a few strategies that we're going to talk about that you can employ in order to break the shield much easier. Of course, it does give you super high gravity, so you can use plunging attacks, whether you use Claymore characters or characters like Bennett. Take advantage of the collision hitbox on top of it in order to get 2 hits in so that you can do like 2 instances of shield breaking. Now, if you wanted the elemental solution, we have, of course, Geo, Navia, Zhongli, Ningguang, Geo Traveler, Noelle Spin Attack. All these Geo characters will have some degree of effectiveness to break their shield. Generally, Navia Zhongli combo is the best, especially Zhongli shield and burst is relatively good. I tested with Geo Traveler. The shield breaking is quite decent. It's just that his cooldown is relatively long, so you do not want to run solo Geo Traveler in any case. Now, of course, if you don't have any of these Geo units, fret not, we do have a reaction also known as Overloaded. So the units that I tested by far is really just a mix of some 5-star and 4-star units. The faster shield breaker is definitely Klee, Shangling paired with Fischl and Cookie, because you do have 2 Electro and 2 Pyros. The shield breaking is actually relatively fast. Granted that Klee's charge attack is considered a heavy attack, it usually breaks enemies' poise very easily, which means it does have the ability to actually break shields relatively fast. Of course, if you don't have Klee, you can also try the Raiden Overloader team. My Raiden is at Constellation 2, so the investment is definitely a bit higher than a regular C0 Raiden, but you can definitely gain some degree of success with this team. So the team that I ran was Raiden, Shangling, Chevreau, and Fischl. Chevreau is not necessary here, but ideally you do want either a buffer or a healer in this team, so you could probably use maybe Cookie, since you already have like Raiden and Fischl for Electro, or you could also use Bennett Shangling, that also works. So the shield breaking is relatively fast, and if you use all these units, you will be good to go. Make sure you dodge all of his attacks, and we move on to Chamber 3. So Chamber 3, the first half is just 2 Ruin Drakes, the walking chicken version. What you want to do after you start the challenge is to do another edge baiting, run all the way back. What this will do is that it will make both of them immediately come towards you, because these guys, if you get too close to them, they'll start retreating because you're not within their hit range or something, and that's not good for grouping. So once you do the edge baiting, wait for them to come to you, and then just rinse and repeat, do the same thing. Ideally, you face one of them. Similar strategy to the Geo cells, Geo Primers in Chamber 1. So make sure they're kind of grouped to each other, do all your damage, and we'll easily just move on to Chamber 2. One more tip I can give is that whenever they do this special charge up move, you do not want them to do that. So try to use a bow character to hit their weak point. You don't have to do a level 2 charge attack, you just have to aim and hit them with a bow. Or you could also use characters like Kazuha with the elemental skill jump and plunge. You could also use maybe Xiao or even Wanderer. Just make sure that they don't finish that move, because otherwise they will absorb a single element, which will increase their resistance by quite a bit. So that will tank your DPS by a certain amount. Now, second half is the Legatus Golem. I swear they really want us to pull for Xilonen and Navia. Now, the same strategy you employ against the Plunge Legend can also be applied here, although the one mechanic I would have to really highlight is that very rarely, maybe after the first or second shield break, it will spawn this little Stone Harp. Whenever it spawns that, it will try to charge up on attack, so try to break that Stone Harp in order to deplete a good chunk of his Geo shield, but otherwise employ the same shield breaking strategies, rinse and repeat, and once you're done, once you get the clear, there it is. Congratulations, you just cleared floor 12 of the Spiral Abyss, and goddamn, this is one heck of an abyss. Anyways, I hope you guys find this really quick guide to be helpful. If you have any sort of questions or you have any issues, feel free to comment down below and I will try my best to help you with the best of my ability. Anyways, that's it for now. This is Ethereal, signing off. Peace.